Document. Part 1 of humanity slept like war gods, till the galaxy woke them up. The stars were quiet. For centuries, they had watched silently as humanity grew, fought, and finally retreated into itself. Earth, once a bustling hub of life and ambition, now lay dormant, its cities overtaken by nature. The oceans rose, swallowing coastlines, while forests reclaimed what was left of civilization. Humanity's greatest achievements, the towering skyscrapers, the sprawling highways, the machines that hummed with innovation, all fell silent. But humanity wasn't gone. It was sleeping, deep in the cold void of space. Far from the ruins of Earth, a fleet of massive ships floated aimlessly. These were not ordinary vessels. They were arc ships, designed to carry thousands of people across the vastness of the cosmos. Each ship housed rows upon rows of cryogenic pods, where men, women, and children lay frozen in time. Their bodies were still, their minds inactive, their lives suspended indefinitely. They were humanity's hope for the future, its last chance at survival. Among these sleepers was Daniel Carter. He was a man who had lived many lives before stepping into his pod. Once a soldier, then an engineer, he had seen both the beauty and brutality of human existence. His hands bore scars from battles fought and tools wielded. His mind carried memories of loss and triumph, love and pain. But now, none of that mattered. In his pod, Daniel was neither hero nor victim. He was simply a passenger on a journey without end. Beside him, in another pod, lay Laura Bennett. She was everything Daniel was not. Calm where he was restless, thoughtful where he was impulsive. A brilliant astrophysicist. She had spent her life chasing answers to questions most people didn't even think to ask. What lay beyond the stars? Could humanity truly find a new home among them? Her curiosity had driven her to volunteer for this mission, leaving behind everything she knew, for the slim chance of discovering something greater. Now, like Daniel, she slept, her dreams locked away in the icy embrace of stasis. The ship they traveled on was called Elysium. It was one of dozens scattered throughout the solar system, each carrying its own cargo of dreamers and believers. The technology that kept them alive was advanced but not perfect. Over the years, some pods had failed, their occupants lost forever. Others held people who would never wake, their minds trapped in endless slumber. Yet the majority remained intact, their inhabitants waiting patiently, or perhaps unknowingly, for the day when they would be called back to life. That day had not come yet. For hundreds of years, the ships drifted through the emptiness of space, guided only by automated systems. The artificial intelligence overseeing Elysium was named Echo. It was more than just a program. It was the ship's brain, its eyes, and its voice. Echo monitored every function, every heartbeat, every breath of the sleeping crew. It ensured that oxygen levels stayed stable, that temperature remained constant, that no harm came to those under its care. And for centuries, it performed its duties flawlessly. But today, something changed. Echo detected a signal, a faint pulse of energy emanating from deep within the galaxy. At first it dismissed the anomaly as background noise, a random fluctuation in the cosmic static. But the signal persisted, growing stronger with each passing moment. It wasn't natural. This was something created, something intelligent. Echo analyzed the data, cross-referencing it against every known pattern in its database. There was no match. Whatever this was, it was unlike anything humanity had encountered before. The AI hesitated. Its programming dictated caution. Waking the crew prematurely could jeopardize the mission. Yet the signal demanded attention. If this was indeed evidence of extraterrestrial life, it could mean the difference between success and failure for humanity's long-term survival. After weighing the options, Echo made its decision. It initiated the waking sequence. One by one, the pods began to hum with activity. Frost melted from their surfaces, revealing the faces of those inside. Lights flickered as circuits powered up, and monitors displayed vital signs returning to normal. The process was slow, deliberate, ensuring that each sleeper transitioned safely from stasis to consciousness. It would take hours, maybe days, for everyone to awaken fully. But the first to emerge was Daniel. His body felt heavy, uncooperative. Muscles screamed in protest as he tried to move, unused to bearing weight after so much time immobile. His vision blurred, colors swimming together before gradually sharpening into focus. The ceiling above him was metallic, cold, and unfamiliar. For a moment, he wondered if he was dreaming. Then reality hit him like a tidal wave. "Where am I?" Daniel croaked, his voice hoarse from disuse. He reached out instinctively, fingers brushing against the smooth surface of the pod. Memories flooded back in fragments. Earth, the mission, the promise of exploring the stars. None of it made sense anymore. How long had he been asleep? Why was he awake now? A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. A holographic interface appeared above his head, displaying lines of text scrolling rapidly. "Welcome back, Daniel Carter," it read. "You have been in cryogenic stasis for approximately 327 years. Your vitals are stable, and your neural activity is within acceptable parameters." 327 years. The number echoed in his mind, staggering in its enormity. Everything he had ever known was gone. Everyone he had loved was likely dead. The weight of it pressed down on him, threatening to crush his spirit. But Daniel forced himself to breathe, to stay focused. He couldn't afford to fall apart, not yet. "Echo," he said aloud, recognizing the name of the ship's AI. "What's going on? Why did you wake me up?" The hologram shifted, forming a simple representation of a humanoid figure. "I detected an unidentified energy signature originating from a nearby star system," Echo replied in a calm, synthetic voice. "Further analysis suggests the presence of advanced technology. Given the significance of this discovery, I deemed it necessary to initiate the waking sequence." Daniel frowned, trying to process the information. Advanced technology from aliens. It sounded impossible. Yet here he was, living proof that humanity could achieve incredible feats. Still, caution tempered his excitement. "Are we in danger?" he asked. "At present, there is no immediate threat," Echo assured him. "However, further investigation is required to determine the nature of the signal. Additional crew members will be awakened shortly to assist." Before Daniel could respond, the sound of movement caught his attention. Nearby pods were opening, releasing clouds of vapor into the air. One by one, figures stirred, groaning as they adjusted to their newfound awareness. Among them was Laura. She blinked rapidly, her gaze darting around the room as she struggled to orient herself. When she spotted Daniel, relief washed over her face. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Is it really you?" He nodded, offering her a small smile despite the chaos swirling inside him. "Yeah, it's me. Welcome back." Laura sat up slowly, rubbing her temples. "How long has it been?" she asked, dread creeping into her tone. "Over 300 years, Daniel replied. "We're not on Earth anymore." Her eyes widened, in shock, but she quickly composed herself. "What happened? Why are we awake?" Daniel explained what little he knew, watching as understanding dawned on her features. "This changes everything," she murmured, her scientist's mind already racing with possibilities. "If there's intelligent life out there, we need to know more. We can't ignore this." As more crew members joined them, the atmosphere grew tense. Some were confused, others frightened. Many had questions, few had answers. Daniel and Laura took charge, doing their best to reassure everyone while grappling with their own fears. They were pioneers, explorers, charting unknown territory. But they were also human, vulnerable to doubt and uncertainty. For now, all they could do was wait. Wait for the rest of the crew to awaken. Wait for Echo to gather more data. Wait for whatever destiny awaited them beyond the stars. Humanity had slept like war gods, untouched by time and untouched by conflict. But now, the galaxy had woken them up, and nothing would ever be the same again. Would you like me to continue writing the next part, or format this document further? Document, Part 2, of Humanity Slept Like War Gods, Till the Galaxy Woke Them Up, The ship was alive with movement now. The once silent corridors of Elysium buzzed with activity, as more crew members emerged from their pods. Some stumbled, unsteady on legs that hadn't been used in centuries. Others leaned against walls, clutching their heads as memories fought to resurface. It was chaos, but a controlled kind of chaos. Echo's voice echoed through the halls, calm and steady, guiding people step by step. Daniel stood near the central hub, watching as the crew gathered. His body still felt stiff, his muscles protesting every movement, but he pushed through the discomfort. Laura was beside him, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd. She looked tired, but determined. Together, they formed a natural leadership duo, Daniel's practicality balancing Laura's curiosity. "All right, everyone," Daniel called out, raising his voice just enough to be heard over the murmurs. "We're all confused, and that's okay, but we need to focus. Something big is happening, and we don't have time to waste." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to him. He wasn't used to being the center of attention, but he didn't shy away from it either. Echo detected a signal, a strong one from a nearby star system. "We don't know what it is yet, but it's not natural. That means there's a good chance we're looking at evidence of intelligent life." A ripple of excitement passed through the group, followed quickly by unease. Intelligent life sounded exciting, but it also came with risks. What if they weren't friendly? What if this discovery put humanity in danger? "We're going to investigate," Laura added, stepping forward. Her voice carried authority, the kind that made people listen. "But we'll do it carefully. First, we need to get our bearings. Everyone needs to check in with medical and make sure you're physically ready for this. After that, we'll divide into teams. Engineers will assess the ship's systems, scientists will analyze the data Echo has collected, and security personnel will prepare for any potential threats." Her words seemed to settle the group somewhat. They nodded, exchanging glances as they began to move toward the medical bay. Daniel watched them go, feeling a mix of pride and apprehension. These were good people, capable and smart, but they were also human. Fear could spread quickly, and panic could undo everything they were trying to achieve. Once the room emptied, Daniel turned to Laura. "Do you think we're ready for this?" he asked quietly. She hesitated before answering. "No," she admitted. "But does it matter? This isn't something we can ignore. If there's intelligent life out there, we have to know. For better or worse." He nodded, knowing she was right. Still, the weight of responsibility pressed down on him. They had been asleep for centuries, untouched by the passage of time. Now they were being thrust into a situation that could define humanity's future or end it. Hours later, the crew reconvened in the command center. Echo projected holographic displays across the room, showing maps of the star system and readings from the mysterious signal. Laura studied the data intently, her brow furrowed in concentration. Beside her, Chris Hayes, the head of security, crossed his arms, his expression skeptical. "This signal," Laura began, addressing the group. "It's not like anything we've seen before. It's complex, structured. There's no doubt in my mind that it's artificial." "What makes you so sure?" Chris asked, his tone sharp. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a no-nonsense attitude. His job was to keep people safe, and he took it seriously. Right now, he looked anything but reassured. "It's too precise," Laura explained patiently. "Natural phenomena. Don't behave this way. Look at the patterns. There's repetition, variation, even what looks like modulation. It's almost like communication." The word hung in the air, heavy with implications. Communication meant intelligence. Intelligence meant aliens, and aliens meant the unknown. So what's the plan? Rachel Monroe, the ship's pilot, spoke up. She was lean and athletic, with a confident demeanor that matched her skills. Her hands rested lightly on the back of a chair, fingers drumming impatiently. Are we heading straight for it? Yes, Daniel said firmly, but cautiously. We'll send a probe first, gather more information before we commit to anything. Chris frowned. And if they're hostile, what then? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, Daniel replied. For now, we assume the best but prepare for the worst. The decision was made. While the engineers prepped the probe, the rest of the crew worked tirelessly to ensure the ship was ready for whatever lay ahead. Supplies were inventoried, weapons checked, and navigation systems recalibrated. The mood aboard Elysium was tense but focused. Everyone knew the stakes. The probe launch went smoothly. It shot out into space, its sensors scanning the area as it approached the source of the signal. Back on the ship, the crew gathered around the monitors, watching as data streamed in. At first, there was nothing unusual, just empty space and distant stars. Then, suddenly, the screen lit up with images. Structures. Massive alien structures floating in orbit around a gas giant. They were unlike anything humanity had ever built. Towering spires reached toward the sky, their surfaces shimmering with an iridescent glow. Rings encircled the planet, spinning slowly, their edges lined with pulsating lights. Ships moved between the structures, sleek and insect-like, their movements fluid and purposeful. It's beautiful, Laura whispered, awe evident in her voice. It's terrifying, Chris countered. His hand hovered near the hilt of his sidearm, though he knew it wouldn't do much good against whatever they were facing. Daniel ignored the tension between them, his gaze fixed on the screen. Echo, can you analyze those ships? Are they armed? Affirmative, Echo replied. Preliminary scans indicate advanced weaponry systems. However, I cannot determine intent without further interaction. Great, Chris muttered under his breath. Before anyone could respond, the probe sent another transmission. This time, it wasn't just images, it was a message. A burst of data flooded the ship's systems, overwhelming the monitors. Lines of code scrolled rapidly, incomprehensible and chaotic. Alarms blared as the ship's computers struggled to process the influx. What the hell is that? Rachel demanded, covering her ears as the noise grew louder. Shut it down, Chris shouted, reaching for the console. No, Laura snapped, shoving his hand away. We can't shut it off. This might be how they communicate. The room descended into chaos as the crew debated what to do. Some argued for cutting the connection, others insisted on keeping it open. In the midst of the argument, Daniel noticed something strange. The data wasn't random, it was repeating. Patterns emerged, subtle but undeniable. Wait, he said, raising his voice to be heard. Look at this. There's structure here. It's not just noise. Laura nodded, her eyes lighting up with realization. He's right. It's a language. Or at least, it's trying to be. Trying, Chris repeated skeptically. You mean they're talking to us? Maybe, Laura said. Or maybe they're testing us. Either way, we need to figure out what it means. As the crew worked to decode the message, the alien ships began to move. They converged on the probe, surrounding it in a tight formation. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, in a flash of light, the probe was gone. They destroyed it, Rachel said flatly, her face pale. No, Laura corrected her. They disabled it. They didn't attack. They neutralized it. That's important. Important? How? Chris demanded. They just wiped out our only line of reconnaissance and left us alive, Daniel pointed out. If they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already. Instead, they're watching, waiting. For what? Chris asked, his frustration boiling over. What do they want from us? No one had an answer. The room fell silent as the reality of their situation sank in. They were no longer alone in the universe. Someone or something was out there, and they were paying attention. Later that night, Daniel found himself unable to sleep. He wandered the ship's corridors, his footsteps echoing softly in the dim light. Eventually, he ended up in the observation deck, staring out at the stars. They seemed colder somehow, less welcoming than they had before. "You should rest," Laura said, joining him unexpectedly. She leaned against the railing, her arms crossed tightly. "I could say that." "Same to you," Daniel replied with a faint smile. She shrugged. "I can't stop thinking about it. About them. What are they? What do they want?" "Maybe we'll find out soon enough," Daniel said. "Or maybe we won't. Either way, we can't turn back now." Laura sighed, her gaze drifting to the horizon. "Do you think we're ready for this? Really ready?" Daniel didn't answer right away. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but resolute. "No, but we don't have a choice. Humanity's been asleep for too long. It's time to wake up." As they stood there, side by side, the vastness of space stretched out before them, filled with both wonder and danger. The galaxy had woken them up, and now it was waiting to see what they would do next. Would you like me to continue writing the next part or format this document further? Document Part 3 of Humanity Slept Like War. God sent till the galaxy woke them up the next morning. The mood aboard Elysium was tense. Everyone knew they were stepping into uncharted territory, and the weight of uncertainty hung heavy in the air. The crew gathered in the command center once again, their faces a mix of determination and apprehension. Laura stood at the front of the room, her fingers flying over a holographic interface as she reviewed the data collected from the probe before it had been disabled. Beside her, Daniel watched silently, his arms crossed and his jaw tight. Chris Hayes paced near the back of the room, his hand never far from his weapon. "So, what do we know?" Rachel Monroe asked, breaking the silence. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table in front of her. Her usual confidence seemed muted, replaced by a cautious curiosity. Laura looked up, her expression serious. "We've analyzed the message sent by the aliens," she began. "It's not a direct communication. It's more like an invitation. An invitation to what?" Chris cut in, his tone sharp. "A trap. A fight. You said yourself, they're armed." "No," Laura replied firmly. "If they wanted to attack us, they could have done it already. They didn't destroy the probe, they disabled it. That tells me they're curious, not hostile. At least, not yet." Daniel nodded in agreement. "She's right. This isn't aggression, it's caution. They're testing us, seeing how we react." Chris frowned, but didn't argue further. Instead, he turned to Rachel. "What about the ships? Can we get closer without risking the crew?" Rachel hesitated before answering. "It depends. Their technology is way beyond ours. If they want to stop us, they can. But if they're willing to let us approach..." She trailed off, shrugging slightly. "We might be able to get within range for a better look." "Then that's what we'll do," Daniel said decisively. "But we stay alert. No unnecessary risks." The plan was simple. Move Elysium closer to the alien structures, while maintaining a safe distance. Echo would monitor all incoming signals, ready to detect any signs of hostility. Meanwhile, the crew would prepare for every possible scenario, from peaceful contact to outright conflict. As the ship moved through space, the alien constructs grew larger on the monitors. The spires gleamed in the light of the gas giant, their surfaces reflecting colors that shifted and danced like living rainbows. The rings surrounding the planet spun steadily, their edges lined with glowing nodes that pulsed in rhythmic patterns. Between them, the insect-like ships darted gracefully, their movements precise and coordinated. "It's beautiful," Laura murmured, her eyes wide with wonder. "And terrifying." Daniel couldn't help but agree. There was something almost hypnotic about the structures, as if they were designed to inspire awe and, perhaps, fear. He tore his gaze away from the screen, forcing himself to focus on the task at hand. Echo, any changes in their behavior? He asked. Negative, the AI replied. The alien vessels remained stationary. No aggressive actions detected. For now at least, they seemed safe. But safety was relative. Every second brought them closer to the unknown, and the tension aboard the ship continued to build. Hours passed, and the crew worked tirelessly to gather as much information as possible. Scientists pored over the data, searching for clues about the aliens' intentions. Engineers double-checked the ship's systems, ensuring everything was functioning perfectly. Security personnel patrolled the corridors, weapons at the ready. In the observation deck, Laura sat alone, staring out at the alien structures. Her mind raced with questions. Who were these beings? What did they want? And most importantly, why had they chosen this moment to make contact? She wasn't the only one lost in thought. In the command center, Daniel stood by the monitors, watching the alien ships with a mixture of fascination and unease. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being studied, observed like lab rats in a cage. It was unsettling, but there was nothing he could do about it. Something's happening, Rachel announced suddenly, drawing everyone's attention. On the screen, one of the alien ships had detached from the formation and was heading straight for Elysium. Is it attacking? Chris demanded, gripping his weapon tightly. No, Laura said quickly. Look, it's slowing down. Indeed, the ship had come to a halt just outside the range of their sensors. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a new signal appeared. On the monitors, a single pulse of energy, directed at the ship. What is that? Daniel asked, his voice low. I don't know, Laura admitted, but it's targeting us. Should we shut it out? Chris asked, his hand hovering over the controls. No, Laura snapped. Let it through. We need to see what it is. The signal flooded the ship's systems, filling the monitors with streams of data. Unlike the previous message, this one was shorter and more focused. Patterns emerged almost immediately, forming shapes and symbols that seemed vaguely familiar. It's coordinates, Laura said finally, her voice trembling with excitement. They're giving us directions. To where? Daniel asked. To one of their structures, Laura replied. I think they want us to follow them. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This was it, the moment of decision. They could either accept the invitation and risk stepping into the unknown, or retreat and leave the mystery unsolved. We should go, Laura said firmly, breaking the silence. This is our chance to learn more about them, about ourselves, and if it's a trap. Chris countered. What then? Then we'll deal with it, Daniel said. But we can't run. Not now. After a brief debate, the decision was made. Elysium would follow the alien ship, guided by the coordinates provided. As the engines roared to life, the crew braced themselves for whatever lay ahead. The journey took hours, though it felt like days. The alien ship led them deeper into the system, weaving through the massive structures, until it finally came to a stop near a colossal ring-shaped station. The station was unlike anything they had seen before. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent glow, and strange symbols, etched into its surface, seemed to shift and change as they approached. This is it, Laura whispered, her voice filled with awe. This is where they want us to go. The alien ship transmitted another signal, this time accompanied by a visual display. On the monitors, a holographic image appeared, showing a docking bay located on the underside of the station. They're inviting us inside, Daniel said, his tone cautious. This could be our best chance to communicate. Or our worst, Chris muttered under his breath. Ignoring him, Daniel turned to Rachel. Can you dock us safely? Rachel nodded, though her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the controls. I'll do my best. With careful precision, Elysium maneuvered into position, aligning itself with the docking bay. As the ship settled into place, the crew prepared to disembark. Weapons were checked, suits were sealed, and final instructions were given. This was the moment they had been waiting for. When the airlock opened, the crew stepped into the alien station. The interior was vast and dimly lit, the walls lined with glowing panels that cast soft, shifting hues across the floor. The air smelled faintly metallic, tinged with something unfamiliar, but not unpleasant. Everything was eerily quiet, save for the faint hum of machinery. "Stay close," Daniel ordered, his voice barely above a whisper, "and keep your weapons ready." They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing softly in the empty halls. After several minutes, they reached a large chamber at the center of the station. Inside, a platform hovered in mid-air, surrounded by floating orbs of light. As they approached, the orbs began to pulse in unison, casting beams of light onto the platform. "What is this?" Laura asked, her voice trembling, before anyone could answer. The lights coalesced into a single beam, projecting an image onto the platform. It was a humanoid figure, tall and slender, with elongated limbs and smooth, featureless skin. Its presence was both mesmerizing and unnerving. "They're here," Daniel said quietly. "This is it." The figure raised a hand, and the room filled with sound, a deep, resonant hum that vibrated through their bodies. It wasn't speech, exactly, but it carried meaning. Laura closed her eyes, focusing on the sensation. Slowly, fragments of understanding began to form in her mind. "They're trying to talk to us," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "They're showing us images, memories." "What kind of memories?" Daniel asked. "Of war," Laura replied, her tone somber. "Of destruction, of loss." The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Whatever these beings were, they carried scars of their own, and now they were sharing them with humanity. As the vision faded, the figure lowered its hand, and the room fell silent once more. For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the alien turned and gestured toward the exit. "They want us to leave?" Laura said, interpreting the gesture. "But I think they're also saying, 'Come back.'" Daniel nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We'll honor that request. For now, let's get back to the ship." As they retraced their steps, the crew couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and trepidation. They had made contact, however briefly, with an alien race. But this was only the beginning. The galaxy had woken them up, and now it was waiting to see what they would do next. "Would you like me to continue writing the next part, or format this document further?" *** document. Part 4 of humanity slept like war gods until the galaxy woke them up. ***. The journey back to Elysium felt longer than the trip into the alien station. Each step echoed loudly in the vast empty halls, and the crew moved with a mix of caution and urgency. The encounter with the alien figure had left them shaken, but also curious. Laura's mind raced as she replayed the images they had seen, the memories of war, destruction, and loss. She couldn't shake the feeling that the aliens were trying to warn them about something. Daniel led the group, his eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. His hand hovered near his weapon, though he doubted it would do much good against beings with technology far beyond their own. Still, the weight of it at his side gave him some comfort. Chris followed close behind, his expression grim. He didn't trust the aliens, not even after their seemingly peaceful interaction. Rachel brought up the rear, her sharp gaze darting between the walls and ceiling, ready for anything. When they finally reached the airlock, relief washed over them. Stepping back onto the ship felt like stepping out of a nightmare and into safety, but none of them truly believed they were safe, not anymore. Once aboard Elysium, the crew gathered in the command center to debrief. Echo projected holographic displays of the alien station and the strange figure they had encountered. Daniel stood at the front of the room, his arms crossed tightly across his chest. "All right," he began, addressing the group. "We made contact. Now we need to figure out what it means." Laura stepped forward, her voice steady, despite the whirlwind of thoughts in her mind. "The images they showed us, they weren't random. They were memories. Memories of conflict, of devastation." "What kind of conflict?" Chris asked, his tone skeptical. "Were they fighting each other, or someone else?" "I don't know," Laura admitted, "but whatever it was, it left scars. Deep ones. And I think they're trying to tell us something important." "They could just be messing with us," Chris countered. "Testing our reactions. Trying to scare us. Or maybe they're warning us," Daniel said firmly. "If they've been through something catastrophic, they might want to prevent us from making the same mistakes." Rachel nodded thoughtfully. "That makes sense. If they're advanced enough to build those structures, they've probably been around for a long time. Maybe they've seen civilizations rise and fall." Laura's eyes lit up. "Exactly. That's why we need to decode the message fully. There has to be more to it than what we saw." For the next several hours, the crew worked tirelessly to analyze the data transmitted by the aliens. Laura led the effort, her fingers flying over the holographic interface as she pieced together fragments of the signal. Around her, scientists and engineers collaborated, sharing insights and theories. Even Chris joined in, though his contributions were more practical than theoretical. As they dug deeper, patterns began to emerge. The symbols etched into the walls of the station matched sequences in the alien message. Laura realized they weren't just decorative. They were part of a language. A complex, intricate language that seemed to operate on multiple levels. "It's not just communication," she explained to Daniel during a brief break. "It's a map, a timeline. There, showing us events, not just words." "Events leading where?" Daniel asked. "To something big," Laura replied. "Something dangerous." Her words sent a chill through him. He glanced at the monitors, where images of the alien structures glowed faintly. "Do you think they're preparing for another war?" "I don't know," she admitted. "But if they are, we need to understand why and how we fit into it." Meanwhile, tensions aboard the ship began to rise. Not everyone shared Laura's optimism or Daniel's determination. Some crew members argued that they should leave immediately, retreating to safer territory before it was too late. Others insisted on staying, believing that humanity owed it to itself and, perhaps to the aliens, to uncover the truth. Chris became increasingly vocal in his opposition to further exploration. "We're risking everything for what? A bunch of glowing lights and weird pictures?" he demanded during one heated meeting. "We don't even know if these things are friendly, and we won't know unless we try," Laura shot back. "Running away solves nothing. If they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already. But they haven't," Daniel added, "which means they're giving us a chance, a choice." Chris shook his head, frustration evident on his face. "Fine, but when this all goes sideways, don't say I didn't warn you." Despite his protests, the majority of the crew sided with Daniel and Laura. They decided to stay, at least for now, and continue their investigation. But the division among them lingered, casting a shadow over their efforts. As the days passed, the crew discovered more about the alien signal. It wasn't just a message, it was an invitation to explore further. The coordinates provided earlier lead not only to the station they had visited, but also to other locations scattered throughout the star system. Each site appeared to hold pieces of the puzzle, fragments of knowledge waiting to be assembled. "We can't check them all at once," Rachel pointed out. "Not without splitting up the crew." "And we can't afford to split up," Daniel said firmly. "Not yet. We stick together until we know more." Laura nodded in agreement. "Let's focus on the closest site first. See what it reveals." With that decision made, Elysium set course for the next location. The journey took less time than expected, thanks to Rachel's skillful navigation. As they approached, the Crew prepared themselves for another encounter with the unknown. The second sight was different from the first. Instead of a massive station, they found a smaller structure floating in space. Its shape was irregular, resembling a cluster of jagged rocks fused together. Strange markings covered its surface, glowing faintly in the darkness. "This doesn't look like the others," Daniel observed, studying the monitors. "What do you think it is?" "A repository," Laura suggested. "Maybe it holds information, data, records, history, or traps," Chris muttered under his breath. Ignoring him, Daniel turned to Rachel. "Can you bring us in closer?" Rachel nodded, her hands steady on the controls. "I'll take us in slow." As Elysium drew nearer, the markings on the structure began to pulse in sync with the ship's sensors. Echo detected a sudden surge of energy emanating from within. "It's responding to us," Laura said, excitement coloring her voice. "It knows we're here." "Does it know we're armed?" Chris asked dryly. Before anyone could respond, the structure emitted a low hum, vibrating through the hull of the ship. Then, without warning, a beam of light shot out, connecting directly to Elysium's systems. "Echo, what's happening?" Daniel demanded. "The structure is transmitting data," the AI replied calmly. "Attempting to integrate with our systems." "Shut it down," Chris shouted, reaching for the console. "No," Laura snapped, blocking his hand. "This could be exactly what we're looking for." The room fell silent as streams of data flooded the monitors. Unlike the previous message, this one was dense and chaotic, almost overwhelming. Laura struggled to make sense of it, her eyes darting between screens. "There's too much," she said finally. "It's like a flood of information. History, science, technology, all of it jumbled together." "Can you sort it?" Daniel asked. "I'll try," she replied, her fingers moving rapidly over the interface. Slowly, patterns began to emerge. Images formed, showing scenes of ancient battles, towering machines, and devastated worlds. But there was something else, something hidden beneath the chaos. "What is that?" Rachel asked, pointing to a faint outline in the corner of one screen. Laura zoomed in, her breath catching in her throat. "It's a blueprint for something big. What does it do?" Daniel pressed. "I don't know yet," Laura admitted. "But if we can decode it, it could change everything." The discovery sparked both hope and fear among the crew. On one hand, they had uncovered something potentially glimpse into the aliens' knowledge and capabilities. On the other hand, they had no idea what it meant or how to use it safely. Chris voiced the concerns many were thinking. "Are we sure we want to mess with this? Playing with alien tech sounds like a recipe for disaster." "We don't have a choice," Daniel said firmly. "If the aliens are trying to communicate, we owe it to ourselves and to them to listen." Laura nodded in agreement. "And if this blueprint is part of their warning, we need to understand it. Ignoring it could be worse than using it." Reluctantly, the crew agreed to proceed. They would take the data back to Elysium and work to decipher it fully. But as they prepared to leave the structure, a new development caught them off guard. A fleet of alien ships appeared on the monitors, surrounding Elysium. Their movements were deliberate, almost ceremonial. For a moment, no one spoke. Then, slowly the ships began to transmit a signal, one that resonated deep within the ship's systems. "They're watching us," Laura whispered, her voice filled with awe. "They're guiding us." Whether that guidance was meant to help or hinder remained unclear. But one thing was certain: humanity's journey into the stars had only just begun. The galaxy had woken them up, and now it was pulling them deeper into its mysteries. Would you like me to continue writing the next part, or format this document further? *** document. Part 5 of Humanity slept like war gods, till the galaxy woke them up. ***. The alien fleet hovered silently around Elysium, their sleek insect-like ships casting eerie shadows on the monitors. The crew watched in tense silence, unsure whether to feel awe or fear. The signal transmitted by the ships pulsed steadily, resonating through the ship's systems with a low hum that seemed to vibrate in their bones. "What are they doing?" Rachel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She gripped the edge of the console tightly, her knuckles white. "They're waiting," Laura replied, her eyes fixed on the screen. "But for what?" Daniel frowned, his mind racing. "Maybe they want us to respond, to show them we understand." Chris shook his head, his expression skeptical. "Or maybe they're testing us, seeing if we'll panic. Either way, we can't ignore them," Daniel said firmly. "Echo, can you analyze the signal? See if there's a pattern?" Affirmative, Echo replied. "Processing now." As the AI worked, the crew exchanged uneasy glances. The presence of the alien ships was overwhelming, their sheer numbers and advanced design making Elysium feel small and fragile by comparison. Despite the tension, no one made a move to leave. They knew this moment was critical, perhaps the most important moment in humanity's history. After several minutes, Echo spoke again. "The signal contains repeating sequences, consistent with mathematical patterns. It appears to be a form of communication." Laura's eyes lit up. "Mathematics is universal. If they're using it, they're trying to connect with us on a fundamental level. Can we respond?" Daniel asked. "Possibly," Laura replied, "but we need to be careful. One wrong step could escalate things." Chris crossed his arms, his tone sharp. "And what happens if we get it right? Do we really want to open that door?" Before anyone could answer, Rachel stepped forward. "We don't have a choice. We've come this far. If we back down now, we might never get another chance." Daniel nodded slowly. "She's right. Let's try to respond but keep weapons ready, just in case." Laura immediately got to work, her fingers flying over the holographic interface as she constructed a simple mathematical response. Numbers and symbols appeared on the screen, forming a basic equation designed to mimic the structure of the alien signal. When she was satisfied, she sent it out into space. For a moment, nothing happened. The alien ships remained motionless, their glowing surfaces reflecting faint light. Then, suddenly, the signal changed. The pulses grew faster, more complex, and the ships began to shift formation. They moved in unison, creating intricate patterns that seemed almost choreographed. "They're responding," Laura said, her voice filled with wonder. "They understood us. What does that mean?" Chris demanded, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon. "Are they friendly? Hostile?" "It's not that simple," Daniel replied. "This isn't about friend or foe. It's about understanding each other." As the alien fleet continued its display, Echo detected a new burst of data directed straight at Elysium. Unlike the previous signals, this one was accompanied by a visual component. On the monitors, images began to form, showing scenes of vast landscapes dotted with towering structures. Rivers of liquid metal flowed across barren plains, while skies shimmered with colors that defied explanation. "They're showing us their world," Laura whispered, her eyes wide with amazement. "Their home." The images shifted, revealing glimpses of the aliens themselves. They were tall and slender, their bodies covered in smooth, iridescent skin that reflected light like polished glass. Their limbs were long and graceful, moving with an elegance that seemed almost unnatural. But it was their faces or lack thereof that struck the crew most. Where human features would have been, there was only a smooth expanse of skin, broken only by faint lines that glowed softly. "They're beautiful," Rachel murmured, her voice tinged with awe. "And strange," Chris added, his tone wary. "What do they want from us?" Laura hesitated before answering. "I don't think they want anything from us. Not yet. This feels like an introduction, a way of saying, 'Here we are.'" Daniel nodded thoughtfully. Then maybe it's time we introduced ourselves. The next few hours were spent preparing a message of their own. Laura led the effort, working closely with Echo to create a visual representation of humanity. Images of Earth appeared on the screen, its blue oceans, green forests, and sprawling cities. Scenes of people laughing, working, and exploring flashed by, capturing the essence of human life. Music played softly in the background, a mix of classical symphonies and traditional melodies from cultures around the world. We're showing them who we are, Laura explained as she finalized the message. Our history, our creativity, our hopes, and our flaws, Daniel added quietly. Let's not sugarcoat it. If they're advanced enough to reach out to us, they'll see through any lies. When the message was complete, it was transmitted to the alien fleet. For a moment, there was silence. Then, the ships responded again, their movements growing more fluid and deliberate. The signal they sent back was different this time, softer, almost melodic. It wasn't a language in the traditional sense, but it carried meaning, emotions, hope. They're accepting us, Laura said, her voice trembling slightly. They're inviting us further. Further where? Chris asked, his skepticism still evident. To their homeworld, Daniel replied. That's what all of this has been leading to, an invitation to meet them face to face. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Traveling to the aliens' homeworld was a monumental decision. It meant leaving behind the safety of their ship and stepping fully into the unknown. But it also meant the chance to learn, to grow, to bridge the gap between species. We should discuss this, Chris said finally. Not everyone may agree. Daniel nodded. You're right. Let's call a meeting. The crew gathered in the command center once again, their expressions a mix of excitement and apprehension. Daniel stood at the front of the room, addressing them directly. We've been given an opportunity, he began. An invitation to visit the aliens' homeworld. This could be the chance of a lifetime to learn from them, to understand them, and maybe even to form an alliance. But it's dangerous, Chris interrupted. We don't know what's waiting for us. What if this is a trap? It's possible, Daniel admitted, but I don't think so. Everything they've done so far suggests they're trying to build trust, not destroy us. Laura stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. If we turn back now, we'll never know. We'll always wonder what could have been. Is that really how we want to define humanity's first contact with another species? Rachel nodded in agreement. We came here to explore, to push boundaries. Running away doesn't fit that mission. The debate continued for hours, with arguments on both sides. Some crew members shared Chris's concerns, fearing the risks outweighed the rewards. Others sided with Daniel and Laura, believing the potential benefits were worth the gamble. In the end, a vote was taken, and the majority chose to accept the invitation. With the decision made, preparations began immediately. Supplies were checked, suits were sealed, and contingency plans were drawn up. Echo monitored the alien fleet closely, ensuring no hostile actions were taken. The journey to the aliens' homeworld would take several days, during which time the crew remained vigilant. As Elysium moved through space, the alien ships maintained their positions around it, guiding the way. The sight was both comforting and unsettling. Comforting because it suggested the aliens were invested in their safe arrival. Unsettling because it reinforced just how dependent humanity was on their technology. On the third day of travel, the destination came into view. The aliens' homeworld was unlike anything the crew had ever seen. Its surface shimmered with hues of gold and silver, and massive towers stretched toward the sky, their tops disappearing into clouds that glowed faintly. Rivers of light snaked across the landscape, connecting the structures like veins in a living organism. It's incredible, Laura whispered, her voice filled with awe and intimidating. Chris added under his breath. Daniel couldn't help but agree. The scale of the city and The civilization behind it was staggering. Humanity's greatest achievements paled in comparison. For a moment, he felt small, insignificant. But then he reminded himself why they were here. To learn, to grow, to prove that humanity was capable of rising to the challenge. As Elysium entered orbit, the alien ships broke formation, leaving a clear path ahead. A single vessel remained, transmitting a final signal. On the monitors, a holographic image appeared, a map of the planet's surface, highlighting a specific location. "They're guiding us to a landing site," Laura said, interpreting the message. "It looks like some kind of reception area." "Let's follow their lead," Daniel replied. "But stay alert. This is it, the moment of truth." When the ship touched down, the crew prepared to disembark. Weapons were checked, suits were sealed, and final instructions were given. As they stepped onto the surface of the alien world, a wave of emotion washed over them. Fear, excitement, and uncertainty all rolled into one. Waiting for them was a delegation of aliens. They stood in perfect formation, their glowing forms illuminated by the soft light of their home world. One of them stepped forward, raising a hand in what appeared to be a gesture of greeting. As the two species faced each other for the first time, a profound realization settled over the crew. Humanity had awoken in